The slap echoed like a gunshot through the glittering ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria. Finn's palm stung as it connected with Elias's cheek, the sound cutting through the jazz quartet and the murmur of New York's elite. For one frozen second, every crystal chandelier seemed to dim, every conversation died. Elias staggered back, hand flying to his face, eyes wide with shock and something deeper, betrayal. Finn stood there, chest heaving in his custom Armani tux, the weight of 1,000 stares pinning him in place. He had just struck the one man who knew every secret he buried beneath layers of boardroom armor and family legacy. The gala was supposed to be another flawless night for Finn Harlow, 34-year-old CEO of Harlow Dynamics, the tech giant reshaping renewable energy. His father's voice still rang in his ears from the morning call. "Marry well, Finn. Keep the name clean. No scandals. Clean." The word tasted like ash, because for 2 years Elias had been more than his personal assistant. Elias had been the quiet anchor who remembered Finn's coffee order, who stayed late rewriting pitch decks, who once sat with him on the rooftop after a brutal earnings call and simply listened. Elias, 28, openly gay, unapologetically kind, with that easy laugh that made boardrooms feel less like battlefields. Tonight Elias had only been doing his job, escorting a tipsy donor's wife to her table, when Finn saw him lean in to steady her and something primal snapped. Prejudice? Fear? Finn didn't know anymore. All he knew was panic flooding his veins at the thought that someone might see the way he looked at Elias and guess the truth he'd hidden since college. Gasps rippled outward. Phones rose like a wave. Finn watched in slow motion as Elias straightened, jaw set, a red handprint blooming on his olive skin. "Mr. Harlow," Elias said, voice steady but low enough for only Finn to hear. "I think we're done here." He turned and walked through the parting crowd, shoulders squared, leaving Finn alone under the lights with the taste of regret already bitter on his tongue. By the time security escorted Finn to the private elevator, the video was already trending. Harlow slap trended within minutes. Finn's phone vibrated nonstop, board members, lawyers, his father's assistant demanding an immediate call. He rode down 40 floors in silence, the mirrored walls reflecting a man he barely recognized. When the doors opened to the underground garage, his driver waited, but Finn waved him off. He needed air. He needed to think. Instead, he found himself walking the rain-slicked streets of Midtown, tux jacket slung over one shoulder, tie loosened like a noose. Elias's apartment in Hell's Kitchen was only 20 minutes away by cab, but Finn didn't dare go there. Not yet. Not after what he'd done. He remembered the first time Elias had corrected him gently on a contract clause, the way his brown eyes crinkled when he smiled. Remembered the night Elias had come out to him over late-night Thai food in the office. Casual and proud. "I'm gay, Finn. Thought you should know in case it ever matters." Finn had laughed it off, changed the subject, but inside something had cracked open. Now that crack threatened to swallow him whole. Back at his penthouse on Central Park West, Finn poured 3 fingers of scotch and stared at the city lights. The video played on loop on his laptop, grainy but unmistakable. Comments flooded in. Homophobic billionaire exposed. Fire him. Boycott Harlow Dynamics. His PR team texted damage control strategies. His father left a voicemail that ended with the words Finn had dreaded since he was 16. "You're a disgrace to the Harlow name." Finn sank onto the leather sofa, head in hands. He had spent years building walls, perfect grades, ruthless deals, the right women on his arm for photo shoots. All to hide the boy who once cried in the shower after his first crush on the soccer captain. Elias had never pushed, never asked for more than friendship and a paycheck. And Finn had repaid that loyalty with violence in front of the entire world. The scotch burned going down, but it couldn't touch the shame. Across town, Elias pressed a bag of frozen peas to his cheek and stared at his own reflection in the bathroom mirror. His roommate, Marcus, a fellow waiter and the only person who knew how deep his feelings for Finn ran, paced behind him. You should sue. Press charges. That man is toxic. Elias shook his head slowly. He's not. Not really. Something broke him tonight. Marcus snorted. You're too forgiving. Always have been. Elias thought of the quiet moments. Finn's tired smile after closing a 9-figure deal, the way he'd once driven Elias to urgent care at 3 a.m. when a migraine hit, refusing to let him take the subway. He thought of the way Finn's hand had trembled right before the slap, as if striking Elias hurt Finn more. I need time, Elias whispered. But time was a luxury neither of them had. The internet had already decided. By morning, every news outlet carried the headline, Tech mogul's public assault on gay assistant sparks outrage. Finn didn't sleep. At 6 a.m., he stood on his terrace, watching the sun rise over the park, and made a decision that would change everything. He opened his laptop and began drafting an email he never thought he'd send. The subject line read simply, I'm sorry, Elias. We need to talk. He hit send before he could delete it. Then he picked up the phone and called the one person he trusted more than anyone. His college roommate and current head of HR, Lauren. I need your help, he said when she answered, voice raw. I think I just ruined the best thing in my life. And I don't know how to fix it. Lauren arrived 30 minutes later with coffee and a legal pad. First things first, she said, sitting across from him. Do you want to fight this in court? Or do you want to be better? Finn looked at her, eyes bloodshot. I want to be better. Even if it costs me everything. She nodded once, already scribbling notes. Outside, the city woke up to a new day, unaware that one man's moment of weakness was about to become the spark for something far larger. Finn didn't know it yet, but the slap that had shattered his carefully constructed world was also the first honest thing he'd done in years. And Elias, miles away, was already deciding whether forgiveness was possible, or if some lines could never be uncrossed. The email arrived while Elias was still in his pajamas, scrolling through the hundreds of messages from strangers offering support, lawyers offering representation, and a few trolls calling him weak for not pressing charges immediately. Finn's name in the subject line made his stomach drop. He read it twice, then a third time, the words blurring. I have no excuse. I was wrong. Please let me apologize in person. Your job is safe, your choice. I'll understand if you never want to see me again. No corporate jargon. No lawyers copied. Just Finn, raw and exposed. Elias closed the laptop and walked to the window overlooking 9th Avenue. Rain streaked the glass. Marcus handed him a mug of tea. Don't go. He's playing you. Elias sipped slowly. He's scared, Marcus. I've seen that look before, on my own face the first time I told my parents. Marcus sighed but didn't argue. They both knew Elias's story. The conservative Texas family that had stopped calling after he came out at 19, the scholarship that got him to NYU, the string of service jobs that led him to Finn's office 2 years ago. Elias had built a life here, small but honest. Until last night. By noon, the protests had started. A small crowd gathered outside Harlow Dynamics headquarters in Lower Manhattan. Rainbow flags waving beside signs that read, Harlow equals hate. Finn watched from the 52nd floor, Lauren beside him. The board wants an emergency meeting, she said. They're talking suspension. Finn nodded. He had already canceled every meeting on his calendar. Tell them I'll be there. But first I need to see Elias. Lauren's eyebrows rose. You sure that's wise? No, Finn admitted. But it's necessary. He took the service elevator down to avoid cameras and drove himself to Hell's Kitchen in the black Tesla Elias had helped choose last year. When he knocked on the apartment door, Marcus answered, arms crossed. He doesn't want to see you. Finn stood there in jeans and a hoodie, looking nothing like the billionaire from last night. 5 minutes. Please. Elias appeared behind Marcus, still wearing the bruise like a badge. Come in, he said quietly. The living room was small, books stacked on every surface, a pride flag draped over the couch. Finn sat on the edge of an armchair, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles whitened. "I'm gay, Elias." The words hung in the air like smoke. Elias blinked once, twice. "I know." Finn laughed, a broken sound. "Of course you do. You always saw right through me." He told the story then, coming out to himself at 16, the conversion therapy camp his father had forced him into at 17, the years of dating women for show, the terror that one wrong look could destroy the empire his grandfather built. "Last night seeing you with that woman's arm around you, I panicked. I projected every fear I've ever had onto you. It was unforgivable." Elias listened without interrupting. The frozen peas long melted. When Finn finished, the silence stretched. "I trusted you," Elias finally said. "Not as my boss. As a friend. Maybe more." Finn's head snapped up. "More?" Elias's smile was sad. "Doesn't matter now." Finn leaned forward. "It does to me. I'm coming out. Publicly. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know this isn't damage control. It's the truth I should have told years ago." That afternoon Finn's legal team drafted a statement. Lauren read it aloud in the conference room while board members shifted uncomfortably. "Last night I assaulted my assistant in a moment of personal crisis. I am gay, and I have lived in fear of that truth my entire life. I am stepping down as CEO effective immediately and will be donating $10 million to LGBTQ youth organizations. I will also be seeking counseling and asking for the public's patience while I learn how to be better." Gasps rippled around the table. One director stormed out. Another, an old friend of Finn's father, called him a traitor. Finn didn't flinch. News broke within the hour. The same hashtags that had condemned him now praised him. CEO comes out after viral slap, donates millions. Protesters outside the building turned their signs around. "We forgive you, Finn." But forgiveness from strangers was easy. From Elias, it was still a question mark. That evening Finn sat on the same rooftop where he and Elias had once shared Thai food. The city hummed below. His phone buzzed. "Elias. I saw the statement. Thank you. But words aren't enough. Actions are." Finn typed back immediately. "Name them. I'll do anything." The reply took 10 minutes. "Meet me at the youth center on 14th Street tomorrow. 10 a.m. No cameras. Just us." Finn stared at the screen, heart pounding harder than it had during any boardroom battle. For the first time in his life, he wasn't calculating risk. He was simply hoping. Across town, Elias lay awake, Marcus snoring on the couch. He touched the fading bruise and wondered if he was being a fool. Finn's confession had cracked something open inside him too. The secret hope he'd buried that maybe, just maybe, the man he admired could love him back. But hope was dangerous when built on pain. Tomorrow would tell. The next morning Finn arrived at the center early, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. Elias waited on the steps, 2 coffees in hand. They didn't hug. They didn't need to. The conversation flowed easier than either expected, about childhoods, about hiding, about the families that shaped them differently. Finn listened as Elias described the last time his mother had spoken to him. Love the sinner, hate the sin. Finn shared the camp where counselors had tried to pray the gay away. When the center director joined them, Finn made a quiet pledge. Monthly funding, mentorship programs, whatever they needed. Elias watched him sign the papers and felt the first fragile thread of trust begin to mend. But the world wasn't done testing them. That afternoon Finn's father flew in from Chicago, storming into the penthouse unannounced. You threw away everything I built for you, for what? Some assistant. Finn stood tall. For myself, Dad. For the first time. The argument lasted hours. Threats of disinheritance, of public disavowal. When the door finally slammed, Finn slid down the wall, exhausted but unbroken. He texted Elias one line, "Hard day, but I'm still here." Elias replied instantly, "So am I." By evening, the story had evolved. Major networks wanted interviews. Finn declined them all. Instead, he asked Elias to dinner at a quiet Italian place in the village. No press, no bodyguards. Elias agreed. Over pasta and red wine, they talked about everything except the slap. Finn learned Elias had once dreamed of being a writer. Elias learned Finn had secretly funded a scholarship for queer students at his alma mater for years. Small truths stacked like bricks, building something new. When they parted on the sidewalk, Finn hesitated. "Can I see you tomorrow?" Elias studied him for a long moment. "Yeah, I think I'd like that." As Finn drove home, he felt lighter than he had in decades. The city lights blurred through unexpected tears. He didn't know that a board member was already leaking documents to the press. Documents that painted Finn's donation as a desperate PR stunt. Or that Elias's old college boyfriend had seen the news and decided to resurface with stories that weren't entirely true. The road ahead was still littered with landmines. But for tonight, Finn allowed himself to believe that one act of rage might, against all odds, become the beginning of something honest and good. The first misunderstanding arrived like a storm cloud on an otherwise clear day. Elias woke to a text from his ex, Jordan. "Saw the news. Congrats on landing the Billionaire. Hope the money was worth it." Attached was a screenshot of a gossip blog claiming Elias had orchestrated the gala incident for a payout. Elias deleted it immediately, but the seed was planted. When he met Finn for their second coffee date at a quiet cafe in Chelsea, he was quieter than usual. Finn noticed. "You okay?" Elias forced a smile. "Just tired." Finn, still navigating his new reality, spent the morning in a virtual board meeting where half the directors threatened resignation unless he reversed the donation. Lauren fought beside him, but the pressure was mounting. By afternoon, Finn received an anonymous email with photos. Old pictures of Elias and Jordan at Pride parades. Captioned, "Is this the man who inspired your sudden awakening?" Finn stared at them for a long time, old insecurities whispering. He didn't reply to the email, but the doubt lingered like smoke. They met again that evening at Elias's apartment. Marcus had conveniently left for a shift. Elias cooked simple spaghetti carbonara while Finn set the table. Conversation started light. Movies, favorite books, but tension thickened when Finn asked, "Did you ever think about us?" "Before?" Elias set down his fork. "Every day. But I knew you weren't ready." Finn reached across the table, fingers brushing Elias's. "I'm ready now." The kiss that followed was tentative, sweet, everything the slap had never been. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. The next morning, the leaked photos hit the tabloids. Harlow's gay awakening. Secret boyfriend revealed? Elias's phone exploded. Colleagues from his old catering job sent screenshots. His mother even called. First time in 3 years, demanding to know if he was using that rich man. Elias hung up, chest tight. When Finn arrived at the apartment with flowers and apologies, Elias couldn't hide the hurt. "Did you leak those?" Finn's face drained of color. "God, no. I swear." But the damage was done. Elias needed space. "Give me a few days," he whispered. Finn left the flowers on the counter and walked out into the rain, feeling the old walls closing in again. Alone in his penthouse, Finn poured another scotch he didn't drink. He called Lauren. "Someone inside the company is sabotaging me." She confirmed it within hours. A senior VP named Richard who had been passed over for promotion when Finn took over. Richard had been feeding stories to the press. Finn confronted him in the boardroom the next day, voice steady. "You're fired. Effective immediately." Richard sneered. "You'll regret this. The old man will have your head." Finn smiled coldly. "The old man doesn't run this company anymore. I do." Elias spent those days volunteering at the youth center, listening to teenagers who reminded him of his younger self. One boy, barely 16, had been kicked out by his parents after coming out. Elias gave him his own spare key and told Finn nothing. When Finn texted asking if they could talk, Elias replied honestly, "I need to know the man I'm falling for isn't hiding anything else." Finn's answer came as a voice note, voice cracking. "I'm done hiding. Come to Chicago with me this weekend. Meet my father. See the whole mess." Elias agreed. The flight was tense. Finn's father met them at the private airstrip, face like granite. Dinner at the sprawling Lake Michigan estate was a battlefield of passive-aggressive comments. "So you're the reason my son threw away his future," the elder Harlow said over prime rib. Elias met his gaze. "No, sir. I'm the reason he finally found it." The old man laughed bitterly. "You think love fixes everything? Wait until the stock drops another 10%. Finn stood then. "If it does, it does. I choose him." The words landed like stones in still water. On the flight home, Elias reached for Finn's hand. "I believe you now." Finn kissed his knuckles. "Thank you for giving me the chance to prove it." But back in New York, another blow waited. Richard had filed a lawsuit claiming wrongful termination and leaked internal emails suggesting Finn had been grooming Elias for years. The story went national. Protests swelled again, this time mixed. Some supporting Finn, others demanding his arrest for the original slap. Elias's roommate Marcus, worried for his friend's safety, urged him to move out temporarily. "This is getting dangerous." Finn offered Elias the guest room in the penthouse. Elias accepted, but slept on the couch the first night, boundaries still fragile. At 3 a.m., Finn found him staring at the city lights. "Can't sleep." Elias shook his head. Finn sat beside him. "Neither can I." They talked until dawn. About fears, about dreams, about the family Elias still hoped might one day accept him. When the sun rose, Finn made pancakes and Elias laughed for the first time in days. Small moments, but they mattered. The lawsuit hearing was set for the following week. Finn's legal team advised settlement. Finn refused. "I want the truth out. All of it." Elias stood beside him at the courthouse steps, cameras flashing. "Whatever happens," Elias said quietly, "I'm here." Finn squeezed his hand publicly for the first time. The image went viral within minutes. Two men standing together against the storm. Inside the courtroom, Richard's lawyer painted Finn as a predator. Finn took the stand and told the whole story. The fear, the slap, the awakening. The judge listened. The gallery was silent. That night, they celebrated quietly with takeout on the penthouse terrace. Finn pulled Elias close. "I don't deserve you." Elias rested his head on Finn's shoulder. "Maybe not yet, but you're trying. That's more than most." The kiss that followed felt like coming home. But in the shadows, Richard was already planning his next move. Contacting Finn's father with evidence that could destroy everything they'd built. The road to justice was proving longer and more treacherous than either man had imagined. Yet for the first time, Finn wasn't walking it alone. The turning point arrived on a Tuesday that started like any other. Elias woke in Finn's guest room, now unofficially his room, to the smell of fresh coffee and the sound of Finn humming off-key in the kitchen. For one peaceful hour, they pretended the outside world didn't exist. Then Lauren called. "Richard just dropped a bombshell. He has emails from your father offering him a board seat if he takes you down. And he's going public with them at noon." Finn's face hardened. "Let him." At 11:45, Finn did something no one expected. He scheduled a live press conference from the Harlow Dynamics lobby. Cameras filled the space. Reporters shouted questions. Finn stepped to the podium, Elias standing just off to the side, visible but not center stage. "2 months ago, I assaulted the man I love because I was terrified of who I am." Finn began, voice steady. "Today, I'm here to tell the rest of the truth. My father has been trying to destroy me, and this company, from the shadows. Here are the emails." He clicked a remote. The giant screen behind him displayed the messages in full. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Richard, watching from a hotel room, turned pale. Finn continued, "I will not settle. I will not back down. And I am donating another $20 million to create the Harlow Justice Fund for LGBTQ employees who face discrimination in corporate America. Elias and I will oversee it personally." He looked straight into the cameras. "If you're watching, Dad, your money can't buy silence anymore." The press conference exploded online. Within hours the stock dipped, but public support surged. Celebrities tweeted support. The youth center was flooded with donations. Elias stood beside Finn as reporters swarmed, answering questions with quiet dignity. "Finn isn't perfect," he said at one point. "None of us are. But he's choosing courage every single day. That's what matters." That evening they drove to Elias's old neighborhood so he could pack the last of his things. Marcus hugged them both. "Take care of each other." On the way back, Finn pulled over at a scenic overlook above the Hudson. The city glittered below. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into the glove box. It was a simple key on a leather fob. "The penthouse is ours now, if you want it." Elias took the key, tears in his eyes. "I want everything. With you. But victory always has a price." The next morning Finn's father arrived unannounced at the penthouse, security guards in tow. "You think you've won?" he snarled. "I still own 30% of the company. One vote and you're out." Finn stepped forward. "Then call the vote. But know this, if I go, the whole story goes with me. Every dirty deal, every cover-up. I have the documents." The old man's face twisted. For the first time Finn saw fear in his father's eyes. "You'd destroy your own legacy?" Finn shook his head. "I'm building a new one." The board vote was scheduled for Friday. In the days leading up, Elias and Finn worked side by side at the Justice Fund office they'd set up downtown. They met with young employees who shared stories of harassment, of being passed over for promotions. Each story fueled Finn's resolve. Elias watched him grow into the man he'd always glimpsed beneath the armor. Thursday night they cooked dinner together, simple roast chicken and vegetables. Over wine Finn asked the question that had been burning inside him. "Will you move in permanently?" "Not as my assistant. As my partner." Elias set down his glass. "Yes, but only if we're equals. No more hiding. No more secrets." Finn pulled him into a slow, deep kiss that promised everything. Equals. Always. Friday morning the boardroom was packed. Finn's father sat at the head of the table, smug. The vote began. One by one directors raised their hands. When it was over, Finn retained control by a single vote. Lawrence. His father stood, face purple. "You'll regret this." Finn met his gaze calmly. "I already regret the years I spent trying to be someone you could love. I'm done." The old man stormed out. The room erupted in applause. That night Finn and Elias celebrated quietly on the rooftop with champagne and takeout. Finn raised his glass. "To second chances." Elias clinked his. "To the man who turned a slap into a movement." They watched the city lights twinkle, the weight of the past finally lifting. But neither knew that Richard had one last card to play. A recorded conversation from months ago where Finn, in a moment of drunken vulnerability, had confessed his feelings for Elias to a colleague. If released, it could still destroy the narrative they'd built. The final test was coming. Yet as they fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms, both men felt something they hadn't in years. Hope. Real, unshakable hope. The final betrayal came from the least expected place. Lauren, Finn's oldest friend, the woman who had stood by him through every crisis, called at 7 a.m. On a rainy Saturday. "Richard has the recording. He's offering me a seat on the board if I stay silent." Finn's blood ran cold. "What did you tell him?" Silence stretched. "I haven't answered yet." Elias, overhearing, placed a steady hand on Finn's shoulder. "Tell her to come over. We'll face this together." Lauren arrived pale and shaking. She played the recording on her phone. Finn's slurred voice confessing, "I think I'm in love with him, man. Elias. But I just can't." The date stamp was 6 months before the gala. Lauren's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know he had this." Finn stared at the floor. "It's true. Every word. But it doesn't change anything now." Elias spoke softly. "It actually proves something. You were fighting yourself long before that slap." They spent the morning strategizing. Finn decided on full transparency. He scheduled another live stream, this time from their living room. Elias sat beside him on the couch, hand openly in Finn's. Millions tuned in. Finn played the recording himself. "This is me before I had the courage to be honest. I was scared. I hurt the man I love. But I'm not that man anymore." He announced he was stepping down as CEO to focus on the Justice Fund full-time, naming Lauren as interim leader. "The company needs fresh vision. I need to build something that actually helps people." The response was overwhelming. Donations poured in. Corporate leaders reached out for advice on inclusive policies. Richard, seeing his leverage evaporate, tried to spin the story one last time. It backfired spectacularly. Within hours, he was the one facing lawsuits from former employees he'd harassed. Finn and Elias watched the news together, the weight finally lifting. With the legal threats behind them, they took their first real vacation, a week in a small cabin upstate. No phones, no press. Just long walks in the woods, late-night conversations by the fire, and the slow, careful exploration of a relationship no longer shadowed by fear. Elias read his half-finished novel aloud while Finn listened, offering gentle feedback. Finn taught Elias how to chop wood, laughing when the axe bounced off the log. One evening under a sky full of stars, Finn dropped to one knee. "I don't have a ring yet, but I have a promise. I will spend every day proving I'm worthy of you." Elias pulled him up into a kiss. "You already are." Back in the city, they moved forward with quiet determination. Finn officially launched the Justice Fund with a gala, ironic given how the first one had ended. This time Elias stood beside him as co-host, both men in matching tuxedos. Speeches were given, checks written, stories shared. When Finn took the microphone, he looked straight at Elias. "2 months ago, I thought my life was over. Today, I know it was just beginning. Thank you for teaching me that love isn't weakness. It's the greatest strength we have." The room rose in a standing ovation. Elias wiped away a tear, smiling so brightly the cameras caught the moment perfectly. Yet growth isn't linear. One night, Elias received a letter from his parents. They had seen the news. They weren't ready to fully accept him, but they wanted to talk. Elias read it aloud to Finn, voice trembling. "I don't know if I can forgive them yet." Finn held him close. "You don't have to. But you don't have to carry the weight alone either." They decided to answer with a simple card. "When you're ready, so are we." Healing would take time. They both understood that now. As autumn leaves turned gold in Central Park, Finn and Elias walked hand in hand along the paths where Finn had once wandered alone after the slap. Strangers still recognized them. Some asked for selfies. Others simply nodded in quiet respect. The world had changed, but more importantly, they had changed. Finn no longer measured his worth by stock prices or his father's approval. Elias no longer wondered if he was worthy of love. They were building something real. A home, a mission, a future. One crisp evening they stood on their rooftop again. The city spread out like a promise. Finn turned to Elias. "Remember the night of the slap?" Elias laughed softly. "How could I forget?" Finn pulled him close. "Best mistake I ever made." Elias rested his forehead against Finn's. "Best thing that ever happened to us." The wind carried their laughter across the skyline as lights twinkled below. A million stories unfolding. Theirs was only one. But it was theirs, honest, hard one, and finally free. Winter arrived with soft snow blanketing New York, turning the city into a quiet wonderland. Finn and Elias had settled into a rhythm that felt both ordinary and miraculous. Mornings began with coffee on the terrace. Evenings ended with shared dinners and plans for the Justice Fund's next initiative, an internship program for LGBTQ youth entering corporate America. The slap that had once dominated headlines was now a footnote in a larger story of redemption that magazines called the Harlow Awakening. Finn no longer cringed at the phrase. He owned it. One Saturday they visited the youth center together. The same boy Elias had helped months earlier now led a support group, confidence blooming. He hugged Elias tightly. "You showed me it was possible." Finn watched the exchange, chest tight with pride. Later, walking home through snowy streets, he said, "You changed more lives than you know." Elias squeezed his hand. "We did. Together." Christmas approached. Finn surprised Elias with tickets to Texas neutral ground, a cabin outside Austin. "If you want to see your parents, I'll be right beside you. If not, we'll drink hot chocolate and watch bad movies." Elias's eyes filled. "Let's try." The meeting was awkward at first. His mother's hesitant hug, his father's stiff handshake. But over pecan pie and careful conversation, small cracks appeared in old walls. No grand declarations, just progress. On the flight home, Elias rested his head on Finn's shoulder. "Thank you for giving me courage." Finn kissed his temple. "You gave it to me first." Back in the city, a new challenge emerged. The Justice Fund had grown so quickly that larger corporations wanted partnerships. Finn and Elias spent weeks negotiating terms that protected employees, not just profits. During one late-night strategy session, Finn looked up from his laptop. "Marry me." Elias blinked. "What?" Finn laughed, suddenly nervous. "Not tonight, but soon. I want the world to know this is forever." Elias closed the laptop, pulled Finn into his arms. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The proposal happened on New Year's Eve at the same Waldorf ballroom where everything had begun. This time the room was filled with friends, allies, and youth from the center. No press, just love. Finn got down on one knee in the exact spot where he had once raised his hand in anger. "Elias, you turned my worst moment into my greatest gift. Will you spend the rest of your life with me?" Elias's answer was a kiss that drew cheers from every corner. Confetti fell like snow. The jazz quartet played their song, the one they danced to alone on the rooftop months earlier. As midnight struck, they stood on the balcony overlooking the city, fireworks painting the sky. Finn wrapped his arms around Elias from behind. "Look what we built." Elias leaned back into him. "Look what you became." Below them the world kept turning, people loving, fighting, growing. Their story was one small thread in an endless tapestry. But it mattered. In the quiet months that followed, Finn stepped further back from corporate life, focusing entirely on advocacy. Elias published his first short story in a literary magazine, fiction inspired by their journey. They adopted a rescue dog named Justice and argued good-naturedly over whose turn it was to walk him in the snow. Life wasn't perfect. Old wounds still ached on bad days. Finn's father sent a single card on their engagement. "I'm trying." They accepted it for what it was. One spring evening they sat on the rooftop again, watching the sun set over the skyline that had witnessed every chapter. Finn turned to Elias. "If you could go back to that night in the ballroom, would you change anything?" Elias thought for a long moment, then smiled. "Not a single thing, because it led us here." Finn kissed him slowly, the kind of kiss that promised decades more of mornings and nights and everything in between. The city lights flickered on one by one, each one a small act of defiance against the dark. Finn and Elias had learned that justice wasn't a single moment. It was 1,000 choices to speak, to listen, to love anyway. And in choosing each other, they had become exactly what the world needed most. Proof that even the deepest prejudice could bloom into the brightest hope. True or false? One prejudiced act can never lead to genuine justice and love, or can it become the very catalyst that changes everything?